as the chemicals they take us higher. The night's young, it has just begun, as she puts her hand in mine. We wanna chase the night, hold this to the light, pull us from the sky, just two hearts running wild. Never sleep, never stop, and a shot from the top. We're gonna be two hearts running wild. Now the morning is the afternoon. We lay awake in bed. The lights so loud as the hours pass. We're gonna do it all again. We wanna chase the night, hold us to the light, pull us from the sky, just two hearts running wild. Never sleep, never stop, and a shot from the top. We're gonna be.
Welcome to our live cricket show as we will be discussing West Indies Tour of Sri Lanka 2024 on this edition. We are so happy to be back with you. We welcome viewers from all over the world, everywhere that you are tuning in from this morning, today, tonight, whatever time it is in your country. We welcome you to West Indies Cricket Development Academy TV, and thank you for joining us this day for this review of the West Indies T20 and ODI squad to tour Sri Lanka. They will arrive in Sri Lanka on the 10th of October, and they'll be leaving the Caribbean in a few days' time, and their arrival will be in Sri Lanka on the 10th. And the first T20 international of the three-match T20 international series will begin 3 days after their arrival. That will be the 13th of October, and that will be at 7:30 a.m. Jamaica time and 8:30 a.m. Eastern Caribbean time. And we hope you will tune in to the West Indies Cricket Development Academy TV to watch and view and hear deep analysis of those upcoming games. They will also have 3 ODI games following the T20 series, and that tour will wrap up on the 27th of October, as we also will be getting ready for the West Indies List A Championship, 50 over championship, that will be held in Trinidad and Tobago. And you can keep it locked here, as we will be giving you our thoughts and reviews of all of these games. I have along with me here recently inaugurated for the very first time and in the Cricket Hall of Fame, the newest inductee in the Cricket Hall of Fame, Mr. Dennis Heath. He's a long-time cricket analyst with us, and he's back with us to give his thoughts on the West Indies T20 team and then ODI team, as we are bringing you coverage of West Indies Tour of Sri Lanka 2024. Thank you, Mr. Heath, for joining us. Glad to have you. We were happy to see you inducted in the Cricket Hall of Fame. Your thoughts on that first, and then touch on the West Indies squad touring Sri Lanka starting from the 10th of October.
This program today. Yes, I'm very pleased, delighted, quite happy to have joined the ranks of more than 180 international cricket legends in the USA first in the World Cricket Hall of Fame. Obviously, I'm very grateful for those who nominated me and for those who recognized that my qualification for such was enough to grant me entry into the Cricket Hall of Fame. So I'm deeply, deeply honored to be there. Regarding the tour, the T20, well, the squad, Junior, is now beginning to shape in the eyes and in the mold that Darren Sammy had suggested when he first came on as coach. He mentioned wanting to return some of the older, more seasoned player with whom he's familiar, and it looks as if he's getting his way here. And I don't mean that in a negative sense, but that he's molding the team in the looks and in the direction that he would like it to go. This time around, we see there are at least 5 inclusion in this tour to go to Sri Lanka compared to those who were selected for the T20 World Cup that was recently completed out there in the Caribbean and in the United States. And those two, we can name Alec Athanas because he was not in that World Cup squad. Neither was Terence Hines. Evan Lewis, although he's an old pro, dare I use that term, and I do mean that in a shall we say, I'm not being negative, merely acknowledging that he has been around a while and he has shown that he's capable. Evan Lewis has been brought back in, and surprise, surprise to me, is the inclusion of Shamar Springer in this T20 squad. But nonetheless, I think the idea was that Darren wanted to introduce experience along with the newcomers. And this team or this squad appears to me to be set in that mold. I'm somewhat concerned that 1 or 2 players may go all that way, but not get the opportunity to participate on the field of play. So, you know, my first suggestion, of course, and I'm not the captain, would be that you're taking 15 players out there in that squad. I would make sure, I would endeavor to see that all 15 get at least 1 match under their belt, because taking them there and bringing them back without an opportunity to perform in even 1 single match is likely to be a downer for that particular player. Yes, he'd be happy to have gone, but extremely disappointed that he's not being seen as worthy of at least 1 match. So that's the only, shall we say, point I want to push, and hope that somebody's listening and ensure that at least all 15 get at least 1 match. And we can get into the more details as we go along.
Absolutely. As we once again show the squad for our viewers, Evan Lewis returning, the captain Rodman Powell, Ruston Chase once again maintaining his vice captaincy place, Alec Athenes, Shea Hope, Brandon King returning from injury, and Sheffield Rutherford, who um, rather controversially leave the CPL, found a place in the team, and Romario Shepherd, Fabian Allen took his time, got back in against South Africa here in Jamaica, kept his place against South Africa as well during that 3-match series in the Caribbean, even though he did not play. And Azari Joseph coming back in, but not the vice captain as he were in the World Cup. And once again, we see Shamar Joseph and Muti and Shamar Springer and Terence Hines. Also, Andre Fletcher. Comment a bit about the surprising return of Andre Fletcher being being on the wrong side of age at this time, finding a place in a West Indies team that is building towards another World Cup in 2026. Many were very, very surprised that he was picked. Comment a little on Andre Fletcher specifically.
Well, I think we can see here that Coach Sammy watched the entire series of the CPL. And in that series, he could see clearly that Fabian Allen does have something left in the tank. Clearly,
Fletcher.
And I'm sorry, Fletcher as well. Yeah, and so it's very, very likely that the performance in the CPL was the engine that drove Darren Sami to include Allen and Fletcher back in this particular squad. So I think this is one of the reasons why I think we're looking forward to seeing him, both of these guys, perform in at least 2 of those 3 match series. There are players in this T20 squad that knows, who we know will be one of the first to be included in all the West Indies team. And therefore, I think we should not think too much about those players if they get just 1 match. But players like Allen and Fletcher and the newcomers, Shamar Springers, those players need to get at least 1 opportunity to show that they can do it. 1 is not always enough, but at least 1 gives us an indication of their possibility ahead of what is likely to be coming for the 2027 World Cup.
Yes, so if you were a selector, would you have gone back to Andre Fletcher despite him performing admirably in the just concluded CPL, but against bowlers that are not of the same repetition that those half Sri Lanka would have, have. Sri Lanka is a very, very good team at home, especially under the new coaching of Sanat Jayasuriya, their former captain and champion opening batter over the years. They have been a team that is slowly moving up the ladder. And would you, if you had a say, gone with Fletcher, despite of the lack of obvious replacement therefore, but would you gone with Fletcher in that T20 team going up against a Sri Lanka team that by all means will give the West Indies a run for their money?
Well, it's important to give him that shot because of his performance in the CPL under the direct eye of the selectors, Darren Sami. This is where we will see if he can stand his ground, which means that if his performance this time round in the CPL was not one based on, well, we can't say it's not based on performance because he obviously caught the eye of the selectors. That means his performance was up to scratch. But giving him this tour place, if he does not fit in this tour match series when he goes to Sri Lanka, then obviously one of the younger other players in the squad can take over. But it is right to give him this opportunity based on this performance. We just hope that this performance was not one of those flash in the pan type of performance in a compact nature, but one that can be sustained in spite of his previous and past experience and, of course, his climbing age.
Absolutely. We are here with Cricket Hall of Famer Dennis Eat covering the West Indies Tour of Sri Lanka 2024, and we are talking about each and every player and their inclusion in that T20 team touring Sri Lanka starting from October 10 to the 27th of October 2024. Just let us take a look back at this T20 squad again. We're looking at Terence Hines. What has Hines done in the CPL this year to be rewarded with an opportunity to tour Sri Lanka in your perspective?
Well, I can't point to his statistics because I know he performed in the CPL, but from my perspective, I did not see all of the matches because of various traveling. So I'm unable to say I saw Terence Hines do very well in match A, B, or C. I know his name has been floated out there as one who may have performed well enough. So for this one on Terence Hines, I'm not in a position to pinpoint his stats or his performance in the CPL. And I'm hoping that perhaps Coach Darren Sammy, who has seen all these matches, is making the right call with this one.
Yes, and we would love if the viewers can give us their views on why Terence Hines was chosen for this particular tour of Sri Lanka. Um, you know, when we look now at the returning Lewis and the way he batted for St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots, the manner in which he carries himself this CPL. Are you pleased that he's now included back into the West Indies T20 team and also the ODI team for this important series against Sri Lanka?
Yes, I'm always very keen to, give a player the opportunity based on performance, Junior. And Evan Lewis in this series, he was dynamic, he was lightning. He certainly produced some outstanding effort and performance with good numbers to show. And it would have been an injustice had he not been at least selected in the squad. Here, I'm hoping that he will get at least 2 opportunities, 2 matches out of the 3 in the ODI, in the T20, my apologies, to show that what we saw in the CPL was an indication that he still has what it takes to produce for Cricket West Indies. So yes, I definitely love to see him get at least 2 matches in the upcoming T20s. Sri Lanka pitches are different. Sri Lanka bowlers will be a lot different. It will then show us if he is a newly regenerated Evan Lewis, because I know he has been a performer of note in the past.
Yeah. To all our viewers, remember to comment. We want to know what you're thinking about the West Indies T20 and ODI squad that is about to tour Sri Lanka. And also remember, if you have not yet subscribed to our channel, please do so, and also like this video, like this stream while you watch, and please comment on this stream. Mr. Eid, your thoughts on Evan Lewis there. The last time he played for the West Indies was in the World Cup 2022, that World Cup that the West Indies fell out of in the very first round for the very first time as well. And since that, he has not represent the West Indies again. Do you now confident and believe that he has overcome the challenges that he had during those 2 years out of the West Indies team? And does his performance sufficient enough to reward him a place back into this West Indies T20 team? Elaborate some more on that.
Yes, I think that I have to put aside or put behind me the performance in the 2022 World Cup. But look now at what has transpired, certainly in these last couple of years, and especially now in this CPL. Lewis has shown that he has what it takes to get out in the middle and soak up the firework from opposing bowlers. He's had some lightning knocks, very, very reliable knocks for his team. And I am sure that as one who pushes performance, that I would be remiss if I did not allow or did not include Evan Lewis in this squad. And that's why it is so very important to make sure that this performance was not just a streak of luck in this particular series. Give him the opportunity to show you're building your team for the next World Cup. He needs to be given the opportunity in at least two of the three upcoming ODI T20 matches.
Absolutely. Now looking and obvious are able to see the squad on their screen. Now looking at Shamar Springer had performed somewhat, taking wickets for the Antigua and Barbuda Falcons. But does it sufficient? He was playing for the Jamaica Talawas, the now defunct Jamaica Talawas, the last few seasons, and had put in a bit of performance there, and now coming back for the newly created Antigua and Barbuda Falcons. But has he done enough, and were you surprised to see him being included in the West Indies T20 team?
Yes, admittedly, I was surprised to see Shamar included in this squad because I've watched his performance for the Antigua Barbuda Falcons, and there were times and moments where I did not quite appreciate what he brought to that team. Yes, he's a talent, he has talent, but there's still a little way for him to go, I think, for him to be able to claim a place in the squad. And so I have the feeling that he might be one of those players who the coach, Sammy, has the eye on, and one who is attempting to give the experience to make sure that he understands what it will take in the future. It's a kind of a push for him to recognize that with a little bit more, of his performance, where he focuses on things that are very important in his development, he could make the squad. Not unlike the young player who were taken to England in that series.
Yeah.
Although
Isaiah
he didn't. Thank you. He went. He soaked up the experience, though he wasn't given an opportunity to perform. And it's likely that Shamar Springer is now in that particular role. And I don't know, personally, I'm not sure, although I've advocated for everyone to get at least one match, and I would give Springer at least one match, but I'm not going to be surprised if he did not get the opportunity to perform, because the coach may not consider him ready enough at this point.
Absolutely. And we have covered your comments on, because the fans are wondering and are worried about the commitment of Sheffield Rutherford, but he had made himself available for this tour of Sri Lanka. What does that speak for him? He's now incumbent within the West Indies team, an established player now within the team. He had played some gem of an innings against Australia and several other teams. Also, some good innings in the World Cup, and did have a bit of off series against South Africa, but nothing to write home about, really, to say drop him from the team. But what would have happened in the CPL must have tilted your mind a bit when it comes to Sheffield Rutherford. You care to speak a bit about him being included in this West Indies T20 team?
There's no doubt that Sheffield Rutherford has produced for Cricket West Indies in T20s, not just this year. I know he withdrew from the CPL, but of course he had some personal reasons to do so, and so I will not hold that against him. But he has demonstrated in the past, in World Cup and in previous matches for T20 series, that he is a player whose name has to be one in the squad when the squad is selected. So I have no doubt that if included and if given the opportunity, Sheffield Rutherford is one who we can rely on to give us his best, and one who I would certainly be happy to cheer on in any of the West Indies team during this Sri Lanka series.
Absolutely. We look at the West Indies T20 squad to tour Sri Lanka again: Evan Lewis, Radman Powell, Ruston Chase, Alec Atheniz, Andre Fletcher, Shea Hope, Brandon King, Sheffield Rutherford, Romario Shepherd, also Fabian Allen, Shamar Joseph, Azari Joseph, Gudish Kish Muti, Shamar Springer, Terence Hines. Your comments on the returning undercook, really, Brandon King coming back into this West Indies T20 team. What are your expectations from him? Do you think he will play the first game? And if he plays the first game, what is required of him, seeing that Fletcher is closely behind, wanting to grab an opportunity to stay in West Indies cricket, even if it's mean for a year or a few more years leading up to that 2026 World Cup?
Well, I'm very confident with Brandon King. And in fact, in my team, the team that I would select would certainly include Brandon King there, because he's a seasoned player, and a player who is quite attacking and attractive. So I would insist that King be amongst the 11, which would include Powell, Chase. I would also throw in Alec Athanaze and Shai Hope and Shamar Joseph, Alzari Joseph, Brandon King, Evan Lewis, Sheffield Rutherford. So that I'm one short there, and in that squad I would perhaps either use Fabian Allen or Andre Fletcher. And that would be my first 11 that I would put out there in that first series. And yes, my confidence in Brandon King is very, very high. And I'd be disappointed if he was not in that first team that takes on Sri Lanka in the opening series.
Yes, let's bring our viewers now to as we cover when we look here, as we are showing on our screen, 4 of the top players in our West Indies team that refused from touring: Andre Russell, former captain Nicholas Pooran, Akil Hussain, and Sherman Meyer. Your thoughts on these 4 players' refusal from touring Sri Lanka this time around?
Well, it's not just their refusal to tour, but it shows that, to me at any rate, they might have some personal reasons that prevents them from going, and I do not know what this may or may not be. And giving them the benefit of the doubt, if they do have something very important at home that they wish to stay home and deal with, that is fine. However, I'm disappointed when, Nicholas Poran will travel here, there, and in a lot of other places to participate in a series, but has declined to lend his experience with the West Indies at the time. But then again, he has played a lot of matches in the past 12 months. So it is perhaps not unexpected for him to say, I need to take a break. So that's understandable, but it's disappointing from my perspective to see him not wanting to, that not there. Russell had already announced his retirement from, I believe he had announced his retirement from international cricket. So I'm surprised to see that was ever considered for this particular series. Am I correct in thinking that he resigned retired?
He said
Be that as it may.
a few days ago, a statement came out and said that the head coach, Darren Sammy, had convinced him to play on until the 2026 World Cup. So he had reversed his retirement. And then now he declines this selection of going to Sri Lanka. These 4 players mentioning that they are doing this for personal reasons. And for too long now here in the Caribbean, these top players, once they get to household names, starts to refuse selection. And it's a bit of a worry that these players are doing so. If they had said they wanted the rest, then I believe the fans would have understood that. But when they are going to say for personal reasons, even looking at Sherman Meyer being out of the West Indies team, had a very good game against South Africa in that final T20. Now you'd have wanted him to come and continue to stake a claim for West Indies. And bearing that he had a very good CPL as well, I think this is why the fans are very disappointed by these 4 refusing selection at this time.
Yes, without a doubt. So I had not heard the news of Russell's, withdrawing his retirement. Nonetheless, I think it's an error, a mistake of the coach, Sammy, to attempt to bring him back into the squad. Russell will be, we know his abilities, but at this point, Sammy says he wants to build a squad. And now is the opportunity to bring that young player in who can get his teeth set in time for the next World Cup. We've got, the likes of Athanase, we've got Carty, we've got Allen, we've got others. Definitely, Russell says, I'm retired, so let it be, leave him in retirement. Akeem Hossain, to me, has not played a lot of cricket this past year. And so I'm surprised, but we have to give them credit. If they have family issues or personal issues which prevent them from touring, then yes, that's understandable. It would be not our business, of course, but of course fans, because we support the team so much and we are part of this team as far as it goes from a personal perspective as a supporter. We would like to know if Hossain is having some issues at home. When I say issues, I mean if there are personal pressing issues at home which keeps him there, then so be it. Tell us about it, we will understand. But when he fails to tour, as is the case with Hetmeyer, who's up and down in the last 4 years, has been in a position where he refusal and his lack of enthusiasm in certain instances has, of course, given spectators more than enough reason to want to have the wrong impression about his willingness and commitment. So, give us the reason. Transparency is essential. If you can tell the fans, oh, I'm going to be home because I want to be at my child's graduation, my child's so and so, I have family commitment because of illness. Fair enough. Spectators will understand. But when you make yourself unavailable in the manner in which they make themselves unavailable, it leaves a lot of sour taste, sour looks in the eyes and mouths of spectators and fans. And we hope that, this is a new year coming up. Let's hope that we can, in the light of these long-term financial contracts that the West Indies Cricket Board has given these players, I'm hoping that this means that an indication that West Indies cricket will be able to rely on them ahead of other franchises or other things. If you're only playing T20 franchises, West Indies have given you an extended contract. We should get something. We, Cricket West Indies, and of course fans of West Indies cricket, should be able to expect that these players with these new contracts should honour the reasons why they've been given these contracts. And when West Indies call, I expect that they should be there. Others should take note that these contracts should not be given out simply because your name is A, B, or C.
Yeah, and the coach Darren Sammy will be coming up on our screen a bit what he said when these guys refused from tour. He said this is an opportunity for us to test our bench strength.
Yes.
So on the bench would have been Evan Lewis now, Andre Fletcher, Terence Hines, Shamar Joseph. If these guys go to Sri Lanka and perform admirably, how now for the series against England, how that will go? Because it would be a miss to remove them with them performing so good against Sri Lanka in Sri Lanka. So there are going to be questions for Darren Sammy to be answered. Moving to the West Indies ODI team now, once again, J.O. returning as captain. West Indies have not have a very good time in ODI cricket of late, but a young man from the West Indies Cricket Development Academy a few years ago, Joel Andrews, finding him place in that West Indies team. Your comments on Andrews first finding a way into this West Indies team on the back of these players refusing from touring opens the door for a young man like this, only 17 years old at this time.
Interestingly enough, I believe that Joel Andrew, he deserves a lot of congratulations for making this ODI squad. But Junior, I would have included Joel Andrew in the T20 squad based on his performance in the CPL this last season. And I would go so far as to say Joel Andrews should perhaps have been in the squad as opposed to, maybe Shamar Springer. However, I know Springer is an upcoming all-rounder, but Springer and Andrew competing for that slot should be the order of the day. And I would have included Joel Andrew in that T20 squad, possibly.
But in the T20 squad, you have Andre Fletcher, would have been the backup wicket keeper, and so switching, so you would rather now have Andrews in place of Fletcher being on the wrong side of it.
Well, that is not a bad idea, definitely. Besides, you do not have to include a player simply because he's a wicket keeper. Right. He's a batter. So you can include him because of his ability to bat. And so, yes, it's very likely that perhaps Andrew could have replaced Fletcher as the wicket keeper, but I could also have kept him, as well as Fletcher, performing on batting strength alone rather than on his ability to. And just before we go further into this ODI squad, I am somewhat surprised to see that Alzari Joseph was vice captain of the T20 squad.
Of the ODI team.
I'm sorry?
He's the vice captain of the ODI team.
Yes, but what happened with the T20? Was he not vice captain of the T20 World Cup squad?
During the World Cup, right.
Yes.
But now Ruston Chase is now the vice captain of the T20 team.
Point. Why does Cricket West Indies chop and change so easily? Either Azari deserved to be vice captain there. If he doesn't deserve to be vice captain in the T20, why does he deserve to be vice captain in the ODI? But that's perhaps another day. But going back to my opening remarks on the series, this tour, once again, I would attempt to give Andrews at least 2 matches in this ODI series. Athanase and Carty, I would attempt to pair these 2 players. And of the 3 matches, depending on which of the 2, how their performances go, one would play 1 and the other would possibly play 2 matches. I would pair Shamar Joseph along with Rutherford. Now, I know Rutherford is a batter, and so he would almost certainly be in most teams. So it's not a case of, but simply to give each player, the opportunity. Shamar Joseph has just shown that he's now growing into the white ball series. And so, yes, Shamar Joseph, I would give at least 2 matches, with Rutherford at least 1. Hayden Walsh is a player who has been denied a lot of opportunities. He's been overlooked a lot. And so we're not quite sure if Hayden Walsh is up to it. And this is one reason why I'd be inclined to ensure that Hayden Walsh gets at least 2 matches in this ODI series. Here we're not looking so much as he has to fire out batters and claim 10 wickets in the series. We're looking to see if he has what it takes to make this series. And so I would give Walsh at least 2 matches in this series. And Moti, again, is a sure pick. So Moti really can be rested, give him 1 match, and ensure that he does turn his hand over. But Walsh, I say, deserves at least 2. Jaden Seals come in this tour with lots of opportunity, lots of experience, and his ability to do the job. But he hasn't played a lot of ODIs, so I would give Seals at least 2 matches. And Shepherd, Romario Shepherd, yes, he's up and down. He can perform at times, but then there are other times when you're looking for him to perform and he doesn't always. But I would give Romario Shepherd at least 1 match. Seals 2. Alzari Joseph, I would give a rest after 2 matches and look at Matthew Ford. That basically is how I see it. In fact, Shai Hope as captain could be rested for 1 match and give Alzari Joseph, an opportunity to show that he is capable of captaining a, national side. Give him the opportunity to captain 1 match and rest Shai Hope. Because right now I know we're trying to build, and this is the only way we're going to see whether somebody can, step up to the plate when it's required.
Very guided thoughts there from Mr. Dennis Eat. And there are a lot of sense in it as well. But Carty will play all the matches for you.
In the ODI, in my Let me just pull up the squad for the ODI
And
again.
Evan Lewis is also in that ODI team, and we have known his record in ODI cricket. But as you said before, when you were mentioning a few players, rather Jaden Seals, his lack of ODI cricket could factor into him. And if you're looking to build a team, then you want to give these guys as much opportunity as possible.
So in the ODI series, I would tend to try and give Evan Lewis at least one match to see how he holds up in that one. Carter and Athanaze, as I said, I would pair. Depending on whether Athanaze perform well, he might get two and Carty gets one match, or the reverse. I would try to pair these guys because I'm looking to build a team and I want to give everybody the opportunity to show their merits. And that's why Seals would get two to build his credential as a ODI player. Romario Shepherd has been knocking around, so he can be carried, but very much so one match is enough for him. And we should certainly give Matthew Ford the opportunity again for at least one match. And that's why I would tend to say, okay, let me rest Alzari Joseph for one match and bring in Matthew Ford. These players should be experienced and professional enough to recognize that when you rest a player to bring somebody else in, it is not a negative against you, but it's an opportunity to build the strength of the team. So no one should be taking it as a personal insult if they are asked to sit out one match in favor of another player coming to the front.
Absolutely. And the West Indies have 9 ODI for the rest of the year. 3 against Sri Lanka, there in Sri Lanka. 3 against England here in the Caribbean. And 3 also against Bangladesh here in the Caribbean. And West Indies is looking to build their ODI team. They have a very satisfied T20 team, but it's in ODI the worry remains. And Mr. Heath is just explaining what is required from his perspective to get the West Indies performing at optimum level. And we do hope that the West Indies will do so. But that's all we have for you today. We will be back on Friday to build up towards that first T20 international at the start of that series with West Indies and Sri Lanka. We will have our full complement of cricket analysts coming back to join me and Mr. Eat as we look to give you coverage of West Indies tour of Sri Lanka 2024. So from all of us here, we will leave you with the West Indies squad that is picked to tour Sri Lanka, rather the West Indies T20 and ODI team touring Sri Lanka. Mr. Heath, any closing thoughts from you?
Well, I'm looking forward to some excitement, looking forward to results, and looking forward to seeing West Indian players in the T20 and the ODI squad step up, take the opportunity, and make sure that those players who made themselves unavailable for these series sit on the bench some more, a little longer, while they newcomers actually step up and take their place, because this is what we're building a team. I'm disappointed to see the no shows on this team, in this squad, but I'm hoping that this is not a trend. Now that we are beginning to establish ourselves in the T20 squad, we're now 4 in the series in the ranking.
Yeah.
We hope we can keep that position there and look to build the ODI squad so that they should be challenging to move up in the table in the next 12 months.
Absolutely. Leading up to that 2027 World Cup. Thank you, Mr. Eat. Cricket Hall of Famer, Mr. Dennis Eat, is also a journalist. He is just freshly minted into the Cricket Hall of Fame, and so he's a Hall of Famer now, and we thank him for being on with us. West Indies Tour of Sri Lanka 2024. You can catch live coverage on the West Indies Cricket Development Academy. And so that is the team for you going to Sri Lanka with some players that pulled out from the team: Nicholas Puran, Sherman Meyer, Andre Russell, and also Alec Rada. Yes. Akil Hussain pulling out of the West Indies team to tour Sri Lanka. Somewhere that he went and made his name, but now unfortunately pulling out. But we see the return of Brandon King, admirable that he now recovers from injury and has come back. We also see the return of the dangerous Evan Lewis that showed great batting powers in the recently completed 2024 T20 for you. There are big news that another T20 tournament will be coming to you to talk about that as well, so you can look forward for that show coming up. Viewers will be covering the T20 tournament there in Guyana as well. We'll bring the thoughts from our analysts on that T20 tournament for you. But at the moment, this is the West Indies team, ODI and T20 team that will be touring Sri Lanka from the 10th of October to the 27th. Thank you for tuning in today. It was an honor speaking to you, myself, and Mr. Dennis Cricket Hall of Famer. It was an honor for us to talk to you today. And goodbye until